Welcome to the D2 Baseball Podcast, your top source for all things D2 Baseball. Before we jump into today's episode, I've got some exciting news. Are you looking to reach a passionate, engaged audience? We're now offering ad spots on our podcast. By advertising with us, you'll connect with thousands of dedicated D2 baseball fans, including players, coaches, and avid supporters. Here's why you should consider partnering with us. Targeted reach. Engage a specific audience that loves D2 baseball. High engagement. Our listeners are loyal and tuned in regularly. Affordable rates. Competitive pricing for all budgets. Flexible formats. Choose from pre-roll, mid-roll, or post-roll ads. Interested? Email us at diviibaseball@gmail.com to learn more and secure your spot. Let's hit it out of the park together. Thanks for considering this opportunity. Now, let's get to today's episode of the D2 Baseball Podcast.
Another edition of the D2 Baseball Podcast, and as we continue our series on new coaches, we have the pleasure of being joined alongside Zach Ullrich, head coach at Christian Brothers. Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us. How's everything been going this summer, now leading into 3.5 weeks of what fall ball's been like? Tell us about the transition process for you and how you're feeling right now with this program.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. First and foremost, appreciate you guys asking me to be on here. And transition's been a little wild. Got here, middle of June, needed to fill a roster. We needed a lot of guys coming in, so we brought in 17 guys in about a month and a half, which is a little hectic to say the least. But got it done. Got an assistant hired. We got Andrew Sharp. He's going to do a great job. He was at Concord last year, and we were able to get him down here. And great recommendation by Coach Bailey from Concord, who I know you guys just had on. Good friend of mine. So pumped. I got him down here, and he's been great. And really, starting the fall, just trying to get everything in motion, get guys to understand my philosophies on things, getting guys rolling, making sure everybody's healthy and ready to go. And, practice has been great the last 3.5 weeks. Guys are excited to get going. Obviously, we just got to keep that excitement rolling and, finish the fall strong, keep everybody healthy rolling into the spring.
And Coach, we like to ask, a little bit about your coaching background. First, like what got you into coaching, and then secondly, kind of a little bit of getting to where you're at today at Christian Brothers University.
Yeah, absolutely. So what got me into coaching, I always wanted to be a coach. I was one of the kids where my dad was my coach growing up, and, we had a lot of long car rides talking about coaching things in the car after games. And, I always liked that side of the game. And, when I got done with college, I kind of missed the team atmosphere and missed being around, a group of guys, pulling for a common goal. And I was fortunate enough to start my career at Dickinson College in Pennsylvania, D3. And I was the pitching coach recruiting coordinator there. And I was really successful. We had a great time there, great program, great group of guys. Really turned that program into something special. And they've been rolling, since I departed from there. And Coach Hanson's done a great job there. I got hired at Roanoke College, and Roanoke was kind of an up-and-coming new program in the ODAC. Had been struggling to, break over that 500 record. In my first year there, we went to the College World Series. We finished third in the country. Had an awesome experience. Had a lot of success there. And I got hired at Barton College, D2 in North Carolina. You guys know. When I was there, we won 31 games from a 12-win season from the staff before. So it was one of the biggest turnarounds of the year that year. We broke strikeout record, set the ERA record for the school. Had a really good team going in the next year. Then COVID hit. We all enjoyed that experience. And, after COVID was done, I got hired back at Roanoke as the head coach. And, my last 4 years there as the head coach, won over 100 games. Went to the championship game a couple of times, went to the championship game last year and lost. with a really young team. We had 6 freshmen in our starting lineup, and I'm big on development. And we really developed those guys and made it a really special team. And then this job came up, and I like rebuilding. And when I was in high school, I worked as an excavator, and building the foundation of something and then seeing how it develops into a house and a nice foundation and all that stuff. That's kind of what you're doing in coaching when you're rebuilding programs, like taking it from something that's struggling and make it beautiful and make it flourish. And, I'm looking to do that here at CBU.
And Coach, to kind of continue on, within that, you talk a little bit about that, opportunity at CBU. Talk a little bit about that process, once that season ended for Roanoke, that process kind of going from your previous stop at Roanoke to now CBU.
Yeah. I'd seen the CBU job out there, and I had conversations with a couple different schools, and I'm just was kind of looking to, I felt like I had reached what I could reach at Roanoke, and wanted to expand my coaching career and keep moving up the chain. And our athletic director Chris Parker reached out to me. We had a great conversation on the phone. I really believe in his vision for Christian Brothers, and I wanted to get in the administration side as well. So I'm also an assistant AD here. Once I'm tired of riding a bus all the time, I can move into that administration role as well. But yeah, the transition was great. Getting here, it was a little more difficult because I have a 5-month-old girl at home, so I don't think my wife was super pleased that we were moving. But yeah, I mean, Christian Brothers has been great. The Memphis area has been great. Memphis is a really cool spot. There's a lot to do, a lot of tradition here. Beale Street's awesome. You got great sports teams, great barbecue. So it's been great. Everything getting down here and getting rolling.
And you mentioned it in the answer before about how you take pride in rebuilding things and taking over a program that wins 15 games from the year before, building on that. Is that part of the challenge? What are some things you try to do to put your stamp on this program here in your first season, particularly in the fall when you want to lay a foundation for building success? Like, what does that look like in the day-to-day?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is building that family culture, where guys really hold themselves accountable and hold each other accountable. It can't always come from me. It's got to come from within. It's got to come from other guys on the team and pushing each other to be great and kind of move on from the guys that aren't pulling the chain in the right direction. We need everybody going in the right direction to be successful. And just the buy-in. And that's one thing, kudos to my guys I've had so far. The buy-in's been phenomenal. Learning what we're teaching and understanding what we're teaching and just attention to detail. Any great team, the details are what win you games. So, paying attention to the little things, doing everything the right way, whether it be on the field or off the field, paying attention to those details and really building that family atmosphere. I think that's so big, man, that all the great teams I've been a part of, they really love each other. They care for each other. And you don't want to let your teammates down. You don't want to let your brothers down. And that's what we're trying to bring in here and instill in our guys is really just, a group of people focusing on, a common goal is a really powerful thing. And if you can get that message, across to these young men and get them to buy in, like, man, you could have a special year and you could have a special team, and you only get one shot each year with this group. So, don't waste it. Don't look back and be like, man, I wish I would have done this or I could have done that. Let's do it. Let's do it and go all in and see what happens. Yeah, I'm excited to get going.
Yeah, we're excited to see you get going. Coach, the other side of it, you kind of mentioned some of the principles of it. What are some additional principles that you have developed over the years as a head coach in building a program?
Yeah, I think bringing in the right people. That's a big part of it. I might be an oddball. I love recruiting. I love getting out and meeting people. I love talking to people. I love going new places. So, I'm not a big culture, this is what our culture needs to be. I feel like that's a buzzword a lot of times that's overused. Our culture is bringing in people that want to work hard and get better every day. And if you're not on board with that, then you're not going to be a right fit for us. Everyone practices from 3 to 5 or 2 to 4. What are you doing outside of those hours to get better? And we want those dudes that I have to kick out of the cage at night, that I have to tell them, hey man, you might want to take it a little more easy on your body. But, I'd rather that than begging and pleading guys to get more work in. So, we have great facilities here. We got an outdoor cage with lights and heaters. So, turn on the lights, turn on the heaters, man. Get out there and hit as much as you can. Good hitters are good hitters because they hit all the time. So, really instilling that in our guys, and how are you separating yourself from the everyday baseball player that just shows up to practice and does the normal 3 to 5 workouts.
And I love what you said about everybody wanting to come together and be brothers. And that's something that I think a bond can be created, certainly when you do those things together. Now, when we talk about this institution, and I know you're involved, like you said at the beginning, as the baseball coach, but also in the athletic department, I wonder, was that part of you coming here or has that been part of the head coaching role in the past? Or was it just your experience, your qualifications, and perhaps your desire was something that helped you say, hey, I've experienced in here and would also like to assume this role at this university within the athletic department?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Our athletic director restructured the athletic program. So this is a new position for the baseball coach, being an assistant athletic director. And that's, one of the reasons I really, I jumped on this opportunity is, when I was at Barton, I mowed the fields, I did all the field work. So I'm the assistant athletic director of facilities and transportation. So, I help maintain all the fields here. And, being part of Division II, they're normally smaller institutions that, is basically focused around athletics. So, being able to help out all the other teams, and, I can walk across the basketball court and say, what's up to the basketball guys, and they know who I am. Whereas other institutions, you're focused on your sport and you don't really know anybody on any of their teams. That's special. And, I think, this place is going to be a really special place here in the next couple of years, because there's a lot of great people here, a lot of great coaches. And it really is almost a really big family within your family of athletics here.
And Coach, speaking of family, I'm very interested to hear your answer on this and maybe help other coaches. You mentioned you have a young child with your wife, and, you're head coach baseball, assistant athletic director. How do you balance all of that, on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. Well, if you ask me and you ask my wife, it's probably two different answers. But, I think the other thing with this job is we don't have lights on our field, which is great. So I know 6 o'clock, I got to roll. I'm going to be home. So the balance, you just got to manage your time. It's the same as being a student. We tell our guys it's got to be a work day. If you don't have class till 10:30, it's not wake up at 10 and run to the field. It's, get up at 7:30, get breakfast, start getting ahead of your class stuff. So when 5 o'clock comes around, you can shut the books and you can hang out with the guys, and you're not procrastinating, saying, oh, I'm going to hang out with the boys, but I still got to write that paper later. Get it done throughout the day, and then you're good to go. And the guys that can really buy into that, they're free of mind, and then they play better. They're not worrying about other things. So kind of the same thing on the coaching side is, get a routine. I have a list of things that I like to get done early in the morning before lunchtime. And then I know the second half of the day, I've gotten all my emails, I've gotten all the administration stuff done, and I can focus on practice. And then when I'm done with practice, I can focus on my family, and I can get home at a reasonable hour and, see my little girl and see my wife and be able to be there for dinner and hang out and all that stuff.
I want to ask about the university itself. Like, how much did you know about Christian Brothers University? I've looked up. You're saying zero because I've looked it up before. We've looked at every single team. We've probably seen a picture of something, but when I looked it up and said, "Man, this is 153-year-old private Catholic institution," so did you have any knowledge, and what are your impressions of the university, just strictly from the institutional side and from the academic side for the student athletes there as well?
Yeah, I knew nothing about it. I'll be honest. I mean, I didn't know anything about it. I played Division II. I coached in Division II. Never heard of Christian Brothers ever. But after coming here, seeing the Memphis area, seeing where the campus is located, like we're just outside the city. So, I mean, and we're in a great area. It's a gated campus. The people have been great. The campus is beautiful. We have athletic facilities on campus. The Liberty Bowl, where Memphis University plays, is literally right across the street. It's awesome. Everyone's been great here. And, it's because no one knows about it. It's almost like starting a new program. Like you got a clean slate to kind of get out there, get your social media message out there, build from the ground floor. And, that's exciting to me. No one knows who we are right now. And it might not be this year, but in the coming years, we're gonna surprise some people and make a name for ourselves for sure.
I mean, great way of saying that, Coach. I think that's a job for both of us to kind of educate everyone of every part of Division II baseball, because your experience, especially in the Northeast. So I want to talk about it a little bit. You played at Mansfield, experience in the Northeast. You coached at Barton, kind of in that area, and then Roanoke and Dickinson, so on and so forth in Pennsylvania. But there's a lot of stigma to pitching being really good in the Northeast and in that area. Talk to me about your thoughts on it, one, and then two, like how it's adapted over time, especially now in the air. I know in the future we'll have an article coming out talking about how Division II baseball has become more offensive, but talk a little bit about how the pitching has adapted to that.
Yeah, I think the pitching. How should I say this? The pitching is the same in the Northeast and the South, but I think the advantages in the Northeast is you have more time to build inside throwing bullpens, whereas in the South, it's, man, you're back, you got 3 weeks, and then we're playing. So some schools start a little later in the Northeast. We start February 1st. I know some don't start till, February 10th, February 15th. That's good for them. That gives them another week to throw a bullpen, to get their guys starters up to 75, 85 pitches. Where in that first weekend for us, we might have guys that, we've only gotten to 60 pitches. So it stresses your bullpen a little bit more, and the hitters are a little more advanced down here just because they're able to get outside earlier and get out of the cage. Not that they're better hitters. I think it's just an eye adjustment thing where you're able to see the ball outside and not in a cage. I know being at Mansfield, we'd go down and we'd play Lynn, and Lynn be 15-0. And we'd see a fly ball outside for the first time and be like, that is the highest fly ball I've ever seen in my life. And, it's just your average routine fly ball. So I think it's more of a visual thing of, getting your eyes trained to seeing the ball outside. As far as, the pitching and development, the Gulf South's great, man. There is no slouch team in the Gulf South. I'm excited to see the talent. It's always good being around great baseball, and seeing the game played the right way. And everything I've heard about the Gulf South, it has been like, it is legit. And, one of the cool things about being down south is, I drive down the street and I see little kids with pitchbacks in the front yard. I have a little league complex down the street from my house, and I've never seen more people at a little league game in my life on a Tuesday night. Like, baseball is a big deal down here, and that's, there's nothing better than being a baseball coach and being in an area where, baseball is a huge part of their lives.
Love what you said about the conference, because it is so competitive top to bottom. That's something that I've noticed, at least. And I mean, there's teams that come out of nowhere. I mean, last year, Lee and Auburn Montgomery were fantastic, and that was something that was so fun to follow. And there's been a lot of different candidates. There's a lot of parity, but it's because I think everybody's pretty good. And so the location advantageous to that. I wonder for you, speaking of that, a little bit about this league. You're recruiting a different geographic location as well. How has that adjustment been, and just overall getting players on your roster when you get hired as a coach? I'm sure, is that the first thing you're trying to do once you get all the paperwork signed? Like, what is that process like?
Yeah, literally the paperwork was signed. I'm making phone calls about 5 minutes later. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say, geographically we're focusing on recruiting guys in the South. I think you're missing out on a lot of talent if you're not, looking throughout the country. And, since COVID, I feel like Twitter has been a huge tool for coaches to be able to get on there, and kids feel more comfortable putting video out. And now you can always be tricked on video. I would, struggle to find a coach that hasn't said, yep, I got duped on that video. So, just doing your background checks, and, it's a benefit, being, my 14th year coaching. I have a good network of guys that, I trust, and I value their opinions. And if they send me a guy, it's okay. Yeah, he knows what I'm looking for. He knows the type of caliber kid I'm looking for. So that definitely helps. But yeah, we recruit nationwide. We have guys from California, Venezuela, Florida, everywhere.
Awesome.
Everywhere. So, talented baseball players, I don't care where they're from. You could be from the moon. If you can play, and let's get you here and get it done and get you better.
Hey, we love that answer, Coach. Yeah, if we might quote that and say, if you're on the moon and you can play, we'll get you here.
Yeah, tell them my email. So
the question I want to ask regarding that, you mentioned that you love recruiting and like what you've spent over the last 13 years as coaching. Though I wanted to ask too, going back to when you got hired. What was it like to essentially just recruit a brand new team in just short amount of time?
Crazy, very hectic. Lot of new numbers in my phone that I don't have saved, and numbers I have to look up all the time. And, but yeah, I mean, it's also exciting, I love the Division II level because it is honestly like the Wild West recruiting. Everybody's available. You got D1 kickbacks, you got JUCO guys, you got D3 guys that were all American, all region players you can go after. You got ex-pros that, that rule that they didn't sign with an agent, you can bring in some of those guys. So everybody's available, which is fun. It's also chaotic, especially when I'm waiting for my assistant coach to get hired. So it was a one-man show for about a month. While trying to move. But also Memphis has an international airport. So it's easy to get guys in and out and be able to check them off and say, yeah, this is a dude we want. And really just, making connections with new places and building that connection and being able to maintain that connection over the next few years is going to be really important. And, leaning on some players that were here, local guys of hey, what local high schools are the ones I should look out for? And, my guys have been great and point me in the right direction so we can get the right guys in here.
Yes. And you bring up the assistant coach. I want to ask about, I know we talk so much about constructing your roster, but constructing your coaching staff as well is something I know that can be a stressful and exciting time, but it really goes hand in hand, at least from my experience. You brought up the brotherhood at the beginning and tying it back to family. I feel as though a lot of the players sometimes are really connected with some of those assistant coaches and everybody being on the same page. From your perspective and just that process overall, what was the staff building looking like for you? And can you share with us who is the staff for you as well?
Yeah. So, look, finding an assistant coach, I went off a lot of recommendations, interviewed a bunch of guys, just trying to find the right fit. Being at the Division III level, it's normally head coach, assistant coach. That's what you got. And you're doing a lot on your own. So, over the years, I've learned how to coach a lot of different positions. So I know the ones that I'm weak in. And Coach Sheehan at Millersville gave me some great advice one time is, hire an assistant coach for the things that you don't like to do. Or you don't love to do. So like, if you're not a spreadsheet guy, hire a guy that loves spreadsheets and gets in there. If you're not an Excel guy, hire a guy that loves Excel and get it done. It's just going to free you up. Yeah. It's just going to free you up to do the things that you like. So, Andrew's been great. Coach Sharp's he's been amazing. He's going to work with our catchers and hitters. Concord had a really good offense last year. He did a great job teaching those guys. I got a lot of great recommendations from him. And then we pulled in Blake Dallas, who's a CBU grad and has a pitching background. And he's more of on the analytical side, which is great. I like analytics. I'm not live and die by the analytics, but in order to recruit a high caliber player and develop, you have to understand the analytics. And having him with us and working with me with the pitchers is going to be great. And then we're still looking right now to bring in another volunteer coach. We have a student manager as well. So, we got a lot of moving parts here. I think CBU in the past has only had head coach and assistant coach. So we're trying to bring in more bodies, more eyes on the guys. It'll just free me up to work in different aspects of the team and not be so locked into pitching or the offense, every day.
And Coach, you kind of mentioned, going on the coaching side, but not going back to the player side. This is kind of a two-part question. The first part is, from a, I guess, player perspective, what's it some people need to be aware of when recruiting at the Division II/Division III level, and then from maybe someone who's never been a recruiting coordinator and doesn't understand, obviously there's levels to it between Division I, II, and III. What's it like? People need to be aware of recruiting at the Division II and Division III levels.
Yeah, well, first off, I would say the talent between Division I and Division II is very slim. Like it is, you're going to see some dudes out in Division II. And it might be a location thing. It might be, a grade thing. It could be a price thing. But the one thing when you're looking at Division II is you can stack scholarships at a lot of places. So, you get your academic scholarship and then we can stack on athletic money on top of that. So it's going to be more affordable. It's a better setup for a lot of families, especially with the struggles that everybody's been having recently. And you're not going to lose a quality of baseball. I've seen teams at Division II that I'm like, this team is the best team that I've ever seen, even watching on TV. I remember those North Greenville teams when I was at Barton. I mean, that lineup was loaded. And, it was no slouch. There was 1 through 9. Dudes could leave the yard and you're facing low 9s every inning. So, I mean, you're going to have a lot of talent, and, a lot of kids are falling in love with the D1, pipe dream. That's great. I've never talked to a scout that has been like, oh, this guy throws, 94, but he's playing Division II. 94 is 94, and that translates everywhere in America. So, go where you feel like you're going to develop the most and you're going to get the best opportunity to play day in, day out.
And on that note, what's your process or what's your mindset on development, particularly with pitching? Because I know that's what your background is. Like, do you have specific techniques or philosophies for guys to get up to 94? You want these guys to get high velo. Is that a big is that a priority for you when you look at pitching development, and how do you have I don't know. I feel like it's a hard question because everybody knows velo is good, but I feel like everybody has different ways of going about developing pitchers, and I'd love your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't live and die by velocity. The biggest thing is velocity just gives you more error to miss. So, I mean, you throw 95, you can miss over the plate a little bit more than you can if you throw 85. That's for sure. But, like when we come in, we teach all of our guys, day one, hey, this is how you throw a cutter. This is how you throw a sinker. Not that they're going to throw those pitches, but to understand how to manipulate the baseball and understand, okay, I can throw a cutter, which means I can turn that into a really good plus slider, or I can throw a sinker let's throw an extra finger on. Now you got a plus changeup. So you're kind of building a pitch, catalog with them that they can really, tunnel different pitches off things on pitches that they've never really thought about or never really threw they can throw or knew they could throw. And they could throw cutter and it not be good. And okay, we know that's not a pitch that you can do. And some guys, they figure it out and it turns into plus slider. And as far as developing velocity, the weight room is such a huge part. We really stress the weight room with our guys. And, I think a lot of high school players are front strong, beach muscles, the biceps, chest, quads. What we really focus on is making our guys back strong, put weight on their back, be explosive. Let's get the hamstrings big. Let's fill out your butt. Let's get a wide back. A lot of guys, when they come into us, they are physically strong, but they're not baseball strong. And we really want to focus on making them explosive. I'm not a big, hey, let's go for a long run pitchers guy. Like, we want to be short and explosive. That's what pitching is. It's an explosive movement off the mound. So a lot of our workouts are focused on being explosive in everything that we do.
And Coach, to kind of branch off what you just said a little bit, allowing it to happen. So you mentioned that you're not a big, let's go for a run type of guy, and you're using more explosive movements. In your experience, if any, how has that developed over time where that maybe I should train more explosive movements rather than saying, hey, go for a run?
Yeah, no, big time. It's changed a lot. I came from a place where it was like, hey, Tuesday, Thursday, we're going for a 3-mile run, whether you threw or not. And, my body just felt tired every day. I think when I was a young coach at Dickinson, I took a lot of what I had learned in college into that. And as I grew as a coach and went to the conventions and just talked to guys that I trusted and pitching coaches I trusted and got to know people, like, everything was just kind of swaying towards, like, be explosive. Don't worry about the long running and getting your legs under you. Your legs are under you because you're strong, not because you can run 5 miles. So, if guys want to do that, that's a preference. I feel the same way about ice. Like, if you ice, it's a preference. I'm a heat guy. Like, if you want to go for a long run, go for a long run. But yeah, I think it's changed over the years, and I've just seen big results, with my guys of doing a lot of short sprint work, doing a lot of kind of ways you would train fielders of, like, lay down sprints and running up hills and getting strong that way, rather than, you're going to run 20 poles today.
In terms of the newness that we talk about in an episode like this with yourself and some of the things that you are now implementing, want to talk about the field that you guys play at and the home field, and how you are going to try to, with your position within the community, those in Memphis, try to help bring a ton of people to the field to support your program. How do you try to do that? I feel like that's a lost thing sometimes, where you want to get involved with the community, you want their support. You might not always see it in Division II athletics, but dang, it makes a big difference when you have it.
Yeah, no, and the community has been great here, and the alumni network. We have a lot of alumni that are still in the area, which is huge. So I've met with a couple of those guys, and just getting the alumni more involved and getting them to bring their families back. And then also, I think a big part of it is running kids camps. I'm excited to run some kids camps and get into the community, and then they're familiar with us. They're familiar with our players that, are coaching them at the camps, and they want to go see those guys play. And then last, you got to win. No one wants to sit and watch a loser. So, I'm sure, we'll start the year, and I think anywhere in college baseball, no one's, filling out in February. It's just too cold, especially in Division II. So, as the year goes on and we can string together some wins, I really hope to bring the community out. And, our school does a great job of promoting all of our games. Our soccer team's playing right now, and they've had great turnouts. So I'm excited to get going with baseball. Speaking with our AD, he's like, man, you got a lot of people coming out to your games and you guys haven't been very good. So once we can turn this around and we can get, the community more involved, I'm excited to see what the turnout's going to be.
Hey, we're excited to see that too, but I'm also excited to hear your thoughts. So looking at the field dimensions for the Nate, and it says 335 down the left field line, 350 down the right field line, 360 to right center. But then it's 385 to left center and 370 to center. I'd say that's pretty interesting. You don't see that very much in college baseball, do you? Where, the left center is longer than center field.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is a interesting dynamic, and ball flies, man. I'm learning that in fall ball so far. Ball flies. So, another reason why, teaching guys sinker cutters is so important. We might not completely miss the barrel all the time, but we need to miss the sweet spot, especially when we're playing at home. And, the other part of that is training our guys not to just be home field hitters. Like, yeah, you can get a fly ball and it'll go out to center here, but it might not be going out at Delta State. It might not be going out at Valdosta. So, training our guys to be complete hitters and not just, hey, we can hit it at our home ballpark because we hit a fly ball and it was able to go out. But yeah, the dimensions are very interesting. It'll be fun. It'll be a fun year to see how the ball flies here.
Yeah, one final one for you, Coach. We like to ask this towards the end, but as you've enhanced throughout your coaching career and going into coaching to where you're at now, who or what are some of your biggest mentors throughout your coaching career, and how have they taught you to apply what you've to where you're at today?
Yeah, no, awesome question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that before. So, first and foremost, my dad. I cherish, looking back, I dreaded some of those car trips, but now I cherish some of them, and love conversations with my dad after the game, and just talking about baseball. And Craig Hansen at Dickinson giving me an opportunity to be a coach. Learned so much from him. So much on the recruiting side. He is a phenomenal recruiter. And I feel like if you could sit a player in front of him, man, he was sealing the deal with him. So big part of my job was just getting him on campus, getting him in front of Craig, and learned a lot from him. Matt McGuire at Roanoke, man, just a quality dude, just hard worker, just really taught me, how to win and what it took to win and how to be a great, family man and everything about life. So thankful for him. And then my time with Keith Gorman at Barton, just such a great coach, man, just infield defense, just a great dude. Good to be around the field with him, and, just brought joy back to the game for me of the stress of, transitioning different schools and learning new players and recruiting and all that stuff. And I had a great time with him there, and, still a good friend of mine. So, and we talk all the time, just, hey man, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And, they're all those guys are just great resources for me just to bounce ideas off of. And, they call me if they need anything or have any questions too. And, I would say it's more me calling them, and they'll say that too, me calling them rather than them calling me. But, they've been great.
Well, that is fantastic, Coach. We really appreciate you taking time to join us and talk all about your career, your path, and certainly your mentors. It's a very powerful thing, and we wish you the best of luck in your first season with Christian Brothers, and we hope continued success the rest of this fall, that you stay healthy. And, man, the season will be here before we know it, so we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. I think it's great what you're doing for D2 baseball. Just keep rolling.
And that is Zach Ullrich, head coach, Christian Brothers University.